Good morning, monkeys. Evening, afternoon, whatever it is out there for you guys. Welcome back to another episode of our RCT Classic series for iPad here on Coaster Monkey Studios channel. So welcome back. Yeah, here we are. We're gonna finally finish out our pirate themed area, which would be pretty cool. I got a couple great things planned out for this video, and then we're gonna do a final run through of all of the areas so you get a full view of what the area looks like completed. I think it came out really well and can't wait to show you guys at the end of our video. So here we are, starting off. We're throwing in another flat ride just in this empty space here between our pirate ship and the launch coaster there. I decided to go with a Neptune boat ride. I thought this would be fun considering the theming, and what I wound up doing is taking it and putting it in the center, just like we did with our spider ride, in the center of a rockwork formation. Again, helping to increase a little bit of that excitement level, and that was the intention here. And as you can see, like I was saying in our last video, we start to get a bit of aggressive amount of our guests in this corner, because this is where all the newness is coming in, all the new rides, and you know they're obviously flocking here. So we're going to see a massive dip in this episode of our overall park rating. I do go back in between takes and fix some of the broken benches, the broken lampposts, put in some extra security guards, because the vast amount of people, you're talking probably almost every single person or guest in our park is flocking to this one corner, and they really destroy it. So just something to keep mindful of as you're opening your rides in your park, as you're progressing, that this will happen. You've got to be, you know, proactive instead of reactive. So we built out our ride, built out the rockwork around it, and now we're just putting in another food installation here, just on the opposite side of our little plaza in the center of our pirate village. And again, going along with the same theming, we've got a balcony in the center. If this were to be a food outlet where people would go in, they would be able to go and sit on the balcony up top, overlooking the plaza. I'm thinking very Caribbean, Spanish-esque. You know, I think back to when I visited Madrid, and we sat in a restaurant overlooking the plaza that we were sitting in, or we were outside of the restaurant we were eating in. And this is the same type of idea I wanted to fulfill with this particular building here. And again, just trying to hit every one of those little minute details. It really does help elevate the overall feel of the park, you know, how it looks, how it feels. You know, you want to kind of hide all the, what does Disney say? Disney has a phrase, get lost in the magic. And that's what we want to create here for our guests. We want them to get lost in the magic, right? So that's what we're creating with the high amount of theming we're doing here. So in this last area, I was really debating on what to do here, and I decided to go forward with a kiddie coaster or a junior coaster. Now, I've never personally ridden a Wendigo, as they call it in Planet Coaster, this type of coaster, you know, junior ride. I've ridden a dragon coaster, but never one of these. And the whole idea of what I wanted to create here was have the first half of this coaster be almost like a dark ride, you know, where you exit out of the station and you go through, you know, these moments of scenery with animatronics and whatnot. And as you exit out of our dark ride portion of the building, you get shot out and up into the mountains of this village that we've created with, you know, some of our buildings here. And I wanted it to feel very dark ride-esque. So you're going to see I build out the foundation for the building first. And again, going back with the whole ideology of having lack of depth when it comes to this game, is you're building out these little themed areas, specifically, and it's such an enclosed area, you run into that quite often. And something to be mindful of as you're building out is to go slowly and build it in layers. You know, again, you'll see that as we do that shortly. But here we are, building out the more exciting half of the ride, right? You know, after we've quote unquote escaped the dark ride portion, and that's kind of the story I want us to feel like. So we leave the station, we're going through this pirate village, and then there's this fight that breaks out, and then boom, we shoot out of the dark ride portion up the mountain to escape, you know, the fighting pirates, and then we shoot back out of this mountain over the water feature area in the river, and then back up into the station. Now again, this is all obviously, you know, stuff that we kind of have to make up as we go along, because we don't get to experience this as quote unquote riders or guests in the park, but it's fun to pretend, right? So I wanted building out an extension to this little bay here, because what I wanted to facilitate or create was almost like a dock, right? So on the outside of a building, you would see docks and ships pulled up to it, and that's kind of the idea here. We're gonna create this little pirate village in this dark ride area. Now, here's where I ran into a little bit of trouble in trying to figure out, you know, how do we want these paths to go, and how are we going to create. I'm gonna look at all of the guests walking in. That's so funny. How are we going to create an environment that's still all engulfing and doesn't feel like or look like you're standing on line for a ride? And I wanted it to be very Disney-esque here, so you just get again lost in that magic, right? There's the foundation built out for our building. And you know, it's funny, I just realized now we didn't change any of the colors of the ride. I guess we're gonna keep it that way too. I kind of really dig this like sandy colored track with the yellow caterpillar or Wendigo, if you will. And now, okay, as we're building out this dark ride, again, building it out in layers. So we put the track in first, and then we build out our outer wall area. And then I start filling in little foundations of buildings on the inside of kind of how I want the buildings to be created on the inside. Again, you can do this. It doesn't have to be in a dark ride area. You can do this with a coaster or any type of ride that goes and moves in and out of buildings and create different scenes that your ride is going through. So this way, you know, you're really increasing that excitement factor of the ride. And that's the intention that we're going after, right? Now, mind you, if this is all inside, right, we're gonna have, you know, dark walls in between, and you'll see those go up shortly, because we don't want to take away from that feeling or that vibe, right? All right, now as we're putting up these dark walls, something to keep in mind, we don't want to take away from that guest experience. We still want them to feel all engulfed. So what I wind up doing as I'm building these out is saying, okay, well now I've got these walls, and let me put in the roofs so I can have a clear definition of where each building stands. You know, what does that building look like? Oh, we're throwing in some paths here because we're going to have quote-unquote animatronics on the inside, which are really our entertainers, right? So we put a few of these guys in. And again, this is just a fun idea to do on any ride, not necessarily a dark ride that's closed off, because we can't see this, right? If we wanted to see it, we could not have the roof portion put on. And I liked this idea here where I threw in the two stock pubs there. Now I start throwing in a lot of foliage throughout because I want it to feel like we are outside and not necessarily inside, and that's what we wind up creating here with the foliage, is have it be very lush and filled with greenery. Obviously this isn't real greenery, right? This is plastic or whatever the case may be. Think very E.T. in Universal Orlando, when you're flying over the forest, you know, that's all plastic trees and plants and shrubbery. It's not real, right? All right, and what's great about those two buildings there is, right, we've got two different facades with roofs that our guests can take a look at from either side. All right, now here we are just wrapping up the roofs and throwing in the last of our seaming. Again, we've got bushes, we've got money chests, we've got pirate signs. You know, again, just to really have a cool feeling and vibe to it. All right, so in this next portion here, we're gonna see that we build out the deck on the outside. And this is, again, we threw the roof on, we put the deck up. And that was the issue we had. There was, you know, again, like I mentioned, I think in our last video, there's these errors where the video would just stop recording and the game would crash. So that's kind of what happened there. So just a heads up for that. I don't know if it's a memory thing. I'm going to look into the memory and kind of where I am with that. I don't know if the video's recording the videos is doing that, but we wound up putting the roof on without you guys seeing that, so I apologize for that. Moving on from here. So now we've got our ride. It's already running. We've got mechanics in. We've got maintenance guys in to clean up all of the vomit, because apparently this ride is very crazy. Now we've got the ride that shoots out, and as it shoots out, it's escaping these pirates, right? So we're escaping out of the dark ride portion, otherwise known as the meeting place for these pirates, and where they come in to hang out, where they get their lager and their beer and whiskey and whatever you want to drink, whatever you feel like drinking. But you guys get the point there. But again, we just build this facade to make it feel like, you know, it's not the front of a warehouse building, and that's the whole idea we're creating. So as you're getting off that ride, you're seeing the facade that you shoot out of. And in the same thought process, I want you guys to put your head around this one, is that when you're getting on the ride now, we're creating this building that you can't see the bay, that little bay area or that little lagoon area, right? You don't see that lagoon area until you shoot out. And that's what we wanted to create. We wanted to create that mystery. We wanted to create that feeling of, wow, cool, right? So we wound up putting some pier walkways out here. We throw some of our pirates out there so they can dance around as you shoot out. And throw some palm trees on the outside of our warehouse building. And then here we are continuing on the facade. Now, what's great about this facade that I like about doing this on warehouse buildings is, you know, it's much simpler than doing a full building. You don't have to worry about 360-degree viewpoints. You know, it's just much quicker and easier, to be honest. All right, and then again, just building out the rest of that pier on the bottom. Now, this is something that's interesting. So because I've got that ship next to it, I can't build any of the pier underneath, or the wood underneath the pier next to the ship there. He's actually blocked it. So I don't know if it bothers me that much. I don't know, maybe I'll revisit it. We'll see. And there we are, just building out that last facade for this quote-unquote other building that our pirates could potentially go in from their ship, right? All right, now onto the facade of the warehouse that is guest facing. So again, we ran into a couple of conundrums here as we were building this out, or I was building this out, excuse me. And I felt like it'd be really cool to have one massive building as the entryway to the queue, and then as you walk through the queue, you walk through these other buildings and end up walking up to this massive facade on our warehouse. That's, again, guest forward facing, right? Because we want to hide that warehouse. You know, we don't want to be able to see that warehouse from anywhere else in the park. That's why we stuck it off into the corner. That happens a lot also. I don't know if you noticed that. I hit that, Six Flags tab on our scenery window and always pop up with the Goliath sign. I find that hysterical. See, here we run into that issue, like I was mentioning earlier, with the lack of depth perception for the building, and I had to delete some things out and kind of cover them up and then go back slowly. You gotta, again, remember, build it in layers, right? So from the outside in or inside out, but not in a huge circle like I was doing, because then you get lost. You get lost in the theming. And look at that facade. I think that looks great. And we build out another walkway here for our pirate to walk on, because we're going to have another entertainer in there. Now I wanted to put a roof there, but then I was like, you know what? Let me throw up a wall on the side here, and for some reason the walls wouldn't play with me in that moment. But I wound up building out the wall here and a little bit of a tower section. I was trying to get it so that the wall went down a little bit lower so you didn't see the roof of that entryway, but it is what it is. And then we have another terrace here. So now you've got the terrace on both sides. You get the walkway that comes up the center. Feels like you're walking into this pirate brothel, if you will. You know, this is where all of those wenches would be, right? You're building up the rest of that roof there so you can't see out. Now I did notice I've got a little bit of window from the station open out into that lagoon area, and I wind up keeping that because it's really the very back of the train. You barely get to see it, so I think I'm going to keep that for that portion there. I don't know, I may go back and change it. Depends if I'm lazy. Whoop, there goes the slip of the camera. All right, now for this portion, I kept running into a huge question mark. What do I want to do here? What do I want to do here? So I built out this wall with some netting and build up the wall just a little bit so that it has some sort of a retainer wall type of feel. But again, nothing that's too blocking, because I want them as they're online to see the pirate ship. I want them to see the water ride. I want them to see the entertainer that's out there. And that's the intention for all of that, right? We want to keep the smiles going for the kids. I don't know why those, I tell you, those help things kept popping up. I think I fixed it. I went into the options section there. I think I got it fixed, but don't quote me on it. I may be completely wrong. All right, just over top netting there. And that's a really great divider for your pirate area. I almost feel like you can do that for a spooky themed area too, if you want to do like haunted pirates, which would be really cool. That netting has almost like a spider web type of feel. You can use it for regular spider webs as well. That's something we may get into at a later time. But yeah, look at that. Love that. The separation with the netting. We got the pirate dancing around. Park with the best custom rides. Woohoo! All right, and again, this is all just facade work, right? So we're making it feel like this is a massive structure when in actuality it's only a 1 cube by 1 cube structure. All right, so for this next part, I build up a divider building in the center, again, nothing too crazy, just for some shade coverage as you're walking through, give a little bit of separation between the queue and the exit line. And then here's your entryway building, just to close off what that experience looks like from the guest perspective on the outside of the ride. So as you walk into this little corner, you've got these buildings completely surrounding you. There's 3 entrances to 3 different rides, yet it doesn't feel that way. It feels like you're engulfed in this pirate-themed environment. Man, I tell you, if I had Planet Coaster, my theming would be out of control. No theme park would be able to build what I build. It'd be too expensive. Look at all of those people and watch that, and periodically look up to that rating in the top left-hand corner. It just keeps dropping. And a lot of that has to do with the amount of people in this area. The maintenance guys can't keep up, so they fill the bins, they throw up on the floor, and then security, there's not enough security, so they start breaking things, and it just it becomes a little bit of a hassle to manage when you've got this many people in the park, and it only gets worse as it gets the guest count gets higher. When you get into that 9,000, 10,000, 11,000 guest range, you end up in situations where there's just so many people that no amount of maintenance or security will be able to help you out. So you've got to open things in slow succession, one at a time, All right, and there's the overall look there from what I'm seeing. I think I do a lot of tweaking here, and that's what's so important too, to make sure that you go back and you revisit. To be honest with you, sometimes I'll build something, I'll not look at it for a couple of weeks and go back and be like, oh, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? It's always subject to change and for different things. So keep that in mind as you're building too. Nothing's ever final, nothing's ever set in stone, and nothing is ever a wrong decision. Make sure that you just go with your gut, have fun. That's the point of this, right? It's a game. You want to have fun. You don't want to freak yourself out or feel pressure that it's not a certain way. Why? Right? All right, now here we are just building our little mountainous buildings. Now this mountain here is a transition mountain for us, going from this area to the next. And you'll see what I do with the foliage at the very end of the video and all the trees, and how I make it look, it blends from like a very tropical island to a very dense tropical rainforest. Again, I didn't want these buildings to be too super detailed. They're just, passing theming that, our train is going through. So. And there I am throwing in some pubs because I was lazy. All right, and as we wrap up the last of our buildings here for our pirate-themed area, I want you guys to check this out. Ready? Ta-da! Here is the final layout of all of your area. Right, you've got your entryway area there. You walk out of that rock formation, past and under and through the Kraken. There's our waterfall feature that we have with the log flume that comes out of the bottom of it. We've got our hotel that goes all the way up that launch there, our main plaza with our back corner, and there's our lagoon for our pirates. for our kiddie ride or our junior ride. There's the splashdown effect for our log flume. And again, just a lot of fun stuff there for you guys to chew on and eat up and kind of see, would this style of theming work for you? I mean, to be honest with you, it just drives massive amounts of traffic, and maybe in our next video I'll show you the whole park. I'll start off the video with a look at the whole park, and then I'll show you with the theming and without the theming, and you'll really get an understanding of why that theming drives your customers and your guests into the park to help increase your overall rating as well as the revenue for your park. All right, thanks for joining us in this episode of Coaster Monkey Studios for RCT Classic. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, and here on YouTube. Thanks.